Okay, perfect. Yeah, so hello and welcome to our second office hours edition. I'm very quite thrilled to be here and to have participants from around the globe joining us today. If you're new to the office hours, just to confirm what this is, it's basically these are HR sessions where we discuss topics around Nakisa HR Suite, how it can be used to address specific business challenges. There are multiple HR use cases that we always see for global enterprises. And these sessions are designed for Nakisa HR Suite users, whether you are an administrator, an HR business partner, an HR manager, a manager, an employee, you can greatly benefit from these sessions. And if you aren't an HR Suite user yet, you can still appreciate how we address, how the suite can address some of these business challenges that you're about to see. Today's topic is around custom chart views, display options, and dashboards. And again, don't worry if you are not familiar with any of these. I'll be explaining these concepts in detail as we go. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Sherif Luca, and I'm a solution engineering manager at Nakisa, based out of Germany. I had the privilege to actually meet and work with most of you. Some of you I've met in person, some of you I've met virtually. And if we haven't met already or before, just have my contact information here displayed for you. So feel free to connect to me, send me an email or LinkedIn. And I'll be very happy to discuss any kind of topics on your mind, or even you can just simply provide me feedback on how you want certain topics you want to see in the next office hours or user groups. Okay, so there are three main topics in today's agenda, starting with custom views. Second one is custom display options and custom dashboards. As always, I will do my very best to leave time for Q&A at the end of each portion of my sessions. I strongly encourage you to post any questions you have in the chat at any point during the presentation. And Daria and I will do our best to keep an eye on it. And if for any reason we run out of time and we don't address or some questions remain unanswered, we will make sure to respond by email. So with that said, I find the best way to present these concepts is through a real business use case. So, you know, I talk to clients, I talk to prospects all the time. I get requirements all the time, and sometimes we need to think, how can we solve and address these needs? So what I want to do is do the same kind of, take the same approach. So I explain a business requirement and then do a live demonstration in the solution itself of how we can address these business needs and objectives in Nakisa HR Suite. And based on the scope for today, you will see me toggling back and forth between the administrator console, which is what we use to do configurations. So that's what your system administrators who have access to Nakisa HR Suite admin console will be using for configurations, and the front end, which is accessed by your end users, who could be HR, could be managers, executives, could be HRBPs or employees, so that we can show the results of these configurations and check what the outcomes are. So without further ado, let's dive into it. So custom views is the first topic on the agenda. Before we talk about the business use case, let me start by defining what is a view. So custom views, these are views that we define and create, but we have already a number of different views already available in the Nakisa HR Suite. And these views basically showcase different types of information in the org chart box. Why do you need that? Because you may want to be doing, you may be doing certain HR processes. Maybe you're looking at talent assessment, in which case you want to look at your talent tracking. What is the performance rating, talent assessment rating, risk of loss information? You may want to do succession management. You want to look at your successors within the chart box. You may want to optimize your organization. You want to look at various KPIs such as span of control, depth, layers, headcount, etc. So depending on your data model, you will have different views available for different types of objects, such as org units, positions, and or employees. And the content of these views will also slightly vary based on your implementation. We have multiple different clients in different industries. You may enable certain views, disable some views, completely entirely up to your business use cases and your business requirements. So custom views are, in certain situations, sometimes it's not enough what comes out of the box or what has been configured for you based on best practices or based on your needs. And there is a requirement that came up from business that says, I need another view where we display field A, B, and C in exactly in that order, for example. So instead of contacting Nakisa Professional Services to do the work for you, well, your administrators can do this work on their own. So if you follow this presentation and listen to the video recording at a later point, you'll be able to perform these types of configurations directly on your own. So let's look at a business requirement. Business requirement is saying that we have a need to display. We are a global organization. We have a lot of contractors, consultants, expats working for the company, and I want to be able to display a view in my positions, in my position boxes, where I show the position title, the name of the employee, the picture of the employee, and I want to display the employee class. So employee class, depending on the ERP you have, could be related to an employee or could be related to the position. An employee class could be, active, could be expatriate, could be intern, could be contractor, consultant, apprentice, etc. So there are different employee classes that are available. And depending on the ERP, you may have it at the position or the employee level. But the business also wants to have a lot of analytics displayed within the OrgChart box. Okay. The second requirement, to just make it a bit more interesting, is that we need to have color coding, conditional formatting, where contractors are displayed in yellow, expatriates are displayed in blue, apprentice in orange, and for those who have maybe some of our colorblind users, they may struggle with these color codes. Maybe it's better to have also an icon that represent these different types of positions. Okay, so again, the requirement is very simple. And what is the solution? The solution is then to use this custom views that I will showcase right now. Okay. So custom views, in order for you to create it, you need to log on to the administrator console. And from the administrator console, you have the OrgChart settings. You need to toggle to the OrgChart node views. You basically select the object that is of interest to you. So in this case, we talk about positions. So I will select the position object, and this is where I add my custom view. So we have what we call the view designer, and I'm going to show you this live in the solution in the next 1 minute. You define the title of the view, you define the templates that you want to use, and there are different templates which I'm going to cover. You do the conditional formatting, and you do the display of icons. Now, a couple of notes that I wanted to emphasize here. When you create a custom view, that does not make it automatically available for everyone in the organization. In fact, you don't want that because sometimes it's sensitive information. Maybe you're displaying salary information. So there are some authorizations that are built in, pre-configured, depending on the template that you use. So if you select employee analytics, for example, as a template to display additional information, such as on the screenshot here, the very bottom one here, this is already secured only for HR people or specific roles that have access to this type of information. So this is very important. Now, if this is not sufficient for you, feel free to contact us, and then we can discuss how we can apply custom authorizations for you to enable the restriction of these views. The second thing is, before you start creating a view, if you know that you need to add icons, so upload the icons first, so that when you go to the view designer, you're able to select these icons from the drop-down menus and they show. If you don't do it, not the end of the world. You can go back, add the icons, and then go back to the view designer, and then it will work. And the last point I wanted to mention is that the next generation, and you may have seen a demo with my colleague Nav Tathgar in product management, where she showcased our next generation HR suite. And you can see that the end users can actually define the views which are specific to their needs, where you can add as many fields as you need in order to meet the specific use cases that you're working on. So without further discussing this, I want to show you this live in the demo. So I'm going to load the Nakisa administrator console, and we'll go, I'll show you case how you can add these custom views. So this is the admin console, and I'm logging in as an administrator. You will see a different settings available here. You should be able to see these types of settings, so application settings, OrgChart settings, etc. As we talk about custom views, I want to start with maybe custom images first, custom icons, and this is where you upload your custom icons that you created. So the icon for contractor and the icon for expat, I already have them on my desktop here. You can see them. I take these two files, I zip them, and then I upload the zip file, and this will allow me then to upload these two icons. But since I've already have them, you will see here that there are two custom icons that I've already uploaded. With that done, the next step would be to go into the OrgChart settings. And within the OrgChart settings, there's a bunch of options. We are talking about views, so you will have to select the OrgChart node views. Then you would select the view in question. So right now we want to manage the position view designer. So this is what I will select. And I'm going to do it for you from scratch so that you can see it's a very simple configuration. You simply create new view. You define the template that you want. So there are a number of pre-configured templates that you see here on the left-hand side. Now, the business requirement says I need employee analytics. So that's why I will choose the template for employee analytics. I will give this view a name. In this case, I will just call it employee class. This is the view that I'm creating. If you have different captions, you will also need to define what the text is for the different captions. We need to have color coding. So first of all, before we do the color coding, let's add the portrait because this is one of the requirements. Let's add the position title because it's also required based on the business needs. I will also add the employee full name as well. And I would like to add the employee class field, which is here. If you need to add a field which is not in the drop-down menu, this means that you need to configure the data management to bring it in. This can be done through integration if you are SuccessFactors or SAP HCM or Workday. If you are using any other ERP or the data exists in an Excel template, you can upload the data via Excel and attach it to one of our custom fields. But we've already done an office hours on that. So this was our first office hours edition. If you want a refresher on that, I would strongly recommend you going back and listening to that video recording. So going back to this, I've added the fields that I'm interested in, and then comes the background color. So the background color is very easy to do. You're going to base this on conditional formatting of the employee class field. You basically create a new background sort of view designer color. And in this case, I will call it employee class view designer. And here it's as simple as saying if there's no value, then make it don't display any different colors. If you are a contractor, so I can just type contractor or type the code based on the data that is being set up. If you're contractor, I want this to be displayed in yellow. If you are an expatriate, so expatriate, I would like this to be displayed in, based on the requirement, I think I put it as blue. And if you are, I would add another one, if you are an apprentice, then I would like to have the color displayed as orange, as an example. So I've done my color coding here. I will just say create. So now we have conditional formatting of the OrgChart boxes based on a field, based on the value of a field. And the second thing comes is the icon. So I will go ahead and also select the employee class. And I can either use an existing icon mapping. I've already created this one. And just to show you how this looks like, it's as such. If I am a contractor, then display this image. This is the image I've uploaded in the previous step. If you're an expatriate, then use this image, which is also created in the previous step. Okay, so it's very, very simple. Once you're done, and I'm going to pause for questions after we do this configuration. Once you're done, you can go ahead and do create. And now we have a new view which is created called employee class. So let's have a look at the front end to see what this looks like after I've done my changes. So on the front end, I'm going to load the front end application. I'm logging in as Jens Bayer, who is an HRBP. So I do have access to the employee analytics view, including this template that I've just created. By the way, this application that you see, this data that you see here, this is coming live from our SuccessFactors Employee Central instance. Again, if you have SAP or Workday, you may have a different data model. You may have different types of data structures, but for now it's position management. So this is the data that I'm showcasing this demonstration on. You will see the view defined at the very end called employee class. This is the one I just created. And when you open it, you will see exactly the information that is here. So I have the position, name of the employee class value displayed here, and the employee analytics here. Now, it's no color coding because all of them are active, and I'm only coloring contractors, expats, etc. Let me navigate to the structure where I have this, where I've added some data to showcase this. Again, the data I've made it in SuccessFactors and used our SuccessFactors connector to pull it through Nakisa HR Suite. So you should be able to see the new information. So I believe it's under CHRO, under President, Bestron Americas, and under the structure here, I will navigate further down to President United States. All of these are active, so there's no color coding, but I added some use cases under a specific structure under Pedro. And then finally, under Timmy Hardy, you'll be able to see the changes that I've just done. So in this structure, I've added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 expatriate positions, indicated clearly with the blue background color, indicated with the expatriate icon. If you mouse over it, it will also tell you that this is an expatriate position. There are 3 contractors, again, defined with the contractor icon. Let me zoom in, maybe you can see it a little bit better. So this is the contractor icon, this is the expatriate icon. These are the different color coding. Apprentice is showing as orange, okay? So again, very powerful because you're able to do this with just a few simple clicks. You're able to do the color coding, formatting, icons, create a new view to meet your business requirements. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second to see if there are any questions related to this. And again, feel free to write your questions on the chat or just unmute yourself and yeah, ask away. I'll be happy to address them. Okay. Okay, so no questions. Okay, that's good. So one thing as well, maybe since we are here, you saw me navigate in order to get to the structure. There's an easier way to do it, which is to use the favorites icon. I'm going to have another office hours on some of the capabilities of Nakisa HR Suite from the front end perspective. But adding to favorites is a very important feature because instead of having to navigate and through a very complicated structure, I can actually just add this to a favorite. I will say this is Timmy's organization, and I can save it. And this will allow me to go directly from the favorite icons, charts, and then select the organization. So I don't have to always navigate from the very top. I can always directly reach it here. Okay. Of course, if on the filter panel as well, you know that already, I can very easily select my different types of employee classes. So here we have 3 contractors, we have 5 expatriates. So these are all my contractors and expatriates. I can drill down to find who these people are. I can select them. I can do some comparisons side by side. I can basically filter, slice and dice, drill down, and get to the information that I'm looking for. Okay. All right. So now let's go back to the presentation. So this is the result that we have, a custom view created for the business to meet their requirements and needs. And again, I think as we see the the evolution of the workplace, and a lot of organizations are hiring contractors, I think it's important to be able to visually represent them in the chart and get a lot of analytics and KPIs based on that. So for example, here I'm showing span of control, headcount, total salary. So I can see the salaries of these contractors, and I can then make decisions, is it maybe more economic as an organization to hire them internally, or maybe find another way to maybe reduce costs if I need to, etc. So again, there's a lot of insights from these KPIs that are shown together with the different types of information such as employee class. Okay, so that brings us to the second topic, which is the custom org chart display options. Of course, what does display options mean? We'll start with that. So display options are a way for the users of Nakisa HR Suite to show or hide org chart nodes based on specific criteria. So a specific criteria could be just a Boolean yes, no field. For example, you may be interested in an organization where you don't necessarily show assistants. You maybe want to look only at your leadership positions. You don't really want to show assistants in the chart, so you can hide assistants. Maybe you have an organization with 10 vacant positions that you want to hire someone for them in the future, and it's not important for your use case to look at these vacancies. You want to look and you want to focus only on these occupied positions. Then you may want to hide these vacant positions. So in the standard, we have pre-configured the application based on what we defined as best practices based on numerous experiences we have with multiple clients. And we defined vacant positions, assistants, consultants, contractors, temporary contractors as the standard 5 display options that we have. And one thing to also note is that these display options are not available for employee roles. So as an employee logging onto Nakisa HR Suite, you don't have the option to say hide, hide contractors. You may not see them because by default, I may already have them hidden for the employee role, but you will not have the option to toggle back and forth between enabling or disabling some of these options that are available for you. So what are the custom org chart display options? Now, in some cases, you may need to have more display options beyond the 5 that are available, or beyond the ones which are enabled in your implementation. For example, we had a client that flags certain positions as hidden. Again, this is their own HR process. They have their own reasons behind it. Employees should not see these types of positions. And HR should have the option to create charts with these positions enabled and also with these positions hidden. So that was a business requirement. And they already have that flag maintained in the ERP. So the idea that they came to us and said, okay, can you have an option to hide or show and toggle between these two options for these types of hidden positions. So that's one requirement. You may be asked to produce a chart which focuses only on the key positions in the organization, or the leadership positions, or the managerial positions. Maybe you don't want to show individual contributors who don't have any direct reports. So you can use the display options to address these business requirements and business needs. Okay. So these are the 5 display options that are available in the standard pre-configured out of the box. One is called not vacation. This is vacant positions or non-manager vacant positions. I will update the caption later on. But basically, these options are to be able to hide or unhide vacant positions. And depending on the profile, if you have an organizational structure versus a position structure, you may have just slightly different in the caption, the way it's displayed. Temporary contracts are one as well. This is based on a field called contract type. Contractors, consultants, these are based on a field called employee class. Again, sometimes ERPs maintain it at the employee level, sometimes it's maintained at the position level, such as with SuccessFactors Employee Central. And then you have assistants as well. Okay, so these are the 5 standard display options. Now, let's look at a business requirement where we need to have a custom display option. So I'm going to give you this business requirement, which is again based on a real case situation. So business leaders are asking for a chart that only has key positions displayed. So basically, any non-key or non-critical position should be hidden from the org chart. Okay, so how do HR leaders address this in Nakisa HR Suite without using the display options? What you can do is you can create a team design, which allows you to make a copy of your entire data set and then filter by key position equals no, and then do a mass delete operation. And then you will end up with a chart in a team design scenario, which doesn't have any of the non-key positions. The problem with this is not every organization, not every customer has the license for org design. So if you don't have it, then you cannot do it. The second problem with this is that it's very inefficient and time consuming. So there's a need for a new solution. So what is the new solution? The new solution is to basically say, okay, let's use the custom org chart display options to create that Boolean field and map it to one of the available extended Boolean fields, such as at the position level. But the tricky thing here is in the standard, we have key position equals yes or key positions equal no. Now remember, in the display options, we basically are hiding. So if I have it enabled, this means I'm hiding a specific position that satisfies the criteria. So if the assistant flag is true and I select hide assistants, then it will hide all of the assistants. So what we need to do is we need to hide the non-key position. So I need to create a reverse field from the key position to a non-key position. So let's say you create a field which is the reverse of key position called non-key or non-critical. If the value of this is true, then I want to hide it. If the value is false, this means it's a key position, so I want to show it. That's the only trick that you need to be aware of. Once you've created the field, it's very easy then to create the custom org chart display options. How do you create custom org chart display options? Again, you will go to the administrator console. You will go to org chart settings, org chart display options. Actually, maybe the best thing for me to do is just to show it to you live. So we'll do this together. Again, so this is the org chart settings. We'll start from the beginning. I will collapse org chart node views, and right below it, you have the org chart display options. And here are the 5 standard ones. So vacant positions, temporary contracts, contractors, consultants, and assistants. And then you have the custom ones, which are mapped to our extended data model. So you can see here, we have 3 fields for positions. These are Boolean fields, so yes, no, field number 1, field number 2, field number 3. The reason why you see 2 entries here, because one entry says, I'd like to enable the field, to enable the custom display option. And the second entry is saying, what should be the default status? Should the default status be that we already hide the values when it's true for that field, or unhide it? So right now, if the field is non-key position equals true, and I have this enabled, then all of the non-key positions will be hidden. So I only have a chart with the key positions. This means that an employee logging in will never able to see themselves in the chart if they are not sitting in a key position. So again, that's not ideal. So for now, I will keep the default status as unhidden. Again, you have, depending on your data model, you may need to do this at the position level. You may need to do this at the employee level. Or you may even want to do this at the org unit level if you have an organizational structure, depending on the type of field that you want to hide and the type of object that you want to hide. So for now, we're talking about non-key positions that I want to hide. This is mapped to my yes/no field 1 at the position. You will be able actually to see this here. Let me go back to my custom fields. And I will show you that we've already created a custom field for non-key position that you can access from the custom field management. And this is the field that I have created, which is here, non-critical position or non-key position. This is a yes/no field. So again, the assumption here, and I'm not going to show this as part of the demo, is to create that field, which is the reverse of key position. So non-key position or non-critical position. It's a yes/no field. So once this is enabled in my custom fields, I can now go to my OrgChart settings and enable the custom display option for that field. Now notice what it's telling us to do. It is saying, don't forget to update the label in the caption editor with this key. The reason why, if I don't do that, so if you enable it but without changing the label, then it will only show the position custom yes/no instead of saying non-key position. So I need to change the label here. So to do the label change, and again, don't worry if you're not following this part. I think what's important for me is to see the result in the front end. Administrators will take care of this for you. The result in the front end is what's very important. So I'm going to show you quickly how to change the captions as well. The captions are all available in the application settings, and you will see general settings, and you can change the caption. Again, I'm following exactly what it's telling me to do when I create a new custom display option. So it's asking me to change the caption of the field, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to wait for this to load. I will find the display option. You can see it here. And you can see the English caption is hide position yes/no field. That doesn't make any sense to the end user. So I'm going to change this to hide non-key positions. Okay, so now I've changed the caption. I will close this, and we've enabled the custom, we've enabled the settings. So I think we're done with in terms of the configurations here. Let's go to the front end and show what this looks like. Now, the best thing is for me to reload the page so that I can see this new configuration that I've done show up here. Okay, so the page is reloading. I'm going to load the structure. Actually, it doesn't matter what structure I load. We'll start from the top. Let's have a look at President Bestron EMEA position because they have a lot of direct reports. I can see the span of control is 18 here. Let me root at this organization. And before I show you what the display options are, let me switch to an interesting view for us because this will allow us to see my key positions. And this is again called the talent rating view. So if you look at the talent rating view, it will show you the different positions with the key position indicator, which is the star icon here. I can see as well performance, potential assessment rating, risk of loss information. If you have this maintained, it will show up here. But what's important for us is the key position. So right now I have a chart that shows me all positions, whether they are key or not key. Right? There's a lot of key positions here shown with the star icon. Some of them are non-key positions. So what happens with the display options? So first of all, you don't see it showing up here. This means that the configuration has not taken effect yet. So maybe I need to log out of the application and log back in again, just to make sure that it refreshes and I can get to see this configuration. Okay, so let me go to the admin console once more. Because I have to save. I forgot to save. I think it's very important when you do a setting is to actually save it. So here's position yes, no. I forgot to save. So this is the save changes. I've enabled it, but I did not save it. That's why it didn't show up. Okay, so now it's saved. Let's go quickly back to the front end. And I will do the same thing. I will log out and then log back in or refresh the page. And this will allow me to refresh the configuration so it comes through. And I will navigate to the same exact structure again and show you the difference between enabling or disabling one of these display options. Okay, so let's look at President Bestron EMEA again. And you see here, there's a fifth display option that is showing. So these are the 5 standard ones as I mentioned before, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is the one which we enabled. And this is actually reading from the custom field, which is Boolean, yes, no, which is non-key position equals true or false, okay? And all of these positions that are key, if I select any of them, if I quickly switch to two-panel mode, and doesn't matter which position I select, you will see the custom information displayed in the chart page here. You will see non-critical position is no. So this is a critical position. So if non-critical position equals no, this means it's a key position, and you can see this indicated with the icon. Anything else doesn't have the icon will have non-critical position shown as yes, like this one here. But what I wanted to show you now is, okay, let's go back to one panel mode, to the structure, and what happens if I select or enable the option hide non-key positions. So I expect all of these boxes that don't have a star to be hidden from display. So you just select it, you do apply, and now you will have a chart without any of these key positions. Okay, you will see only my key positions here. And of course, because the option is already enabled, if I navigate any of the organizations, I will only end up with my key positions. Okay, and if I want to go back to displaying both, I can unhide the flag, which is for non-key positions. This will then show me all of the positions, whether it's key or non-key, displayed in the chart. Okay. Again, very powerful feature. Now think of this as you can extend that use case to not only key positions. You can say, okay, are these contractors positions? Are these expats position? Display the chart without any contractors, without any consultants. So you can use the display options with multiple different use cases. Okay, they are accessed from this menu here. So, so this is the example I gave, simply following when I enabled hide non-critical positions, I ended up with only the key positions displayed in the chart. Okay, I'm going to pause and see if there are any questions so far related to the display options. Is any of the things I'm showing resonating with you? Do you have business needs for some of these requirements, like custom views or custom display options?
It will definitely come as people get used to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good point, Nick. I think we are in the onboarding project with you. So yeah, once we get you up and running, I think more requirements will come and we will enable it in our tool for sure.
Sherif,
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, Laura.
So you've hidden some of these non-critical positions. Will that work if you skip a layer or a level, for example, and it goes down? So you've got on this level, you've got a critical position, you've got the next layer where there are no critical positions, and in the third layer, there's a critical position again, or a non-critical position. Will it display, or will it display everything?
Very good question. So the challenge here is that, so if you're using this display options, you have to be aware that if there are records, so let's say, let's take, for example, let's take President France here. This is a non-key position, but if there are positions below President France that are key, I will not be able to see them because I will filter the President France position out. So it's very important if you use these options for you to know that you may end up with losing some data. So most of the clients we talk to, they are aware of this and they're fully okay with it based on the type of data that they're hiding. But it's just important to keep that in mind. The challenge here would be, how can we hide the child object because it satisfies the criteria? But if it has other children that don't satisfy the criteria, they need to be shown. So how can we do it? We had some options in the past, in the classic sort of legacy solution, where we dimmed the nodes. So we didn't show the content of it because it still has children that satisfies the criteria that needs to be shown, even though the node itself doesn't show it. But then we ended up with other challenges with the display. We had a lot of these dimmed objects and it didn't look good, and yeah, had some implications. But very valid question. If you use the display options, be aware that if the criteria is for hiding the objects are not met, you will just simply for the sub-children, then the parent object will also be hidden, so you may lose some data. So you have to make sure that the data that you have doesn't have these situations. So only the leaf objects, not parent objects, need to satisfy the criteria. Does that answer your question, Laura?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so the last topic of today is custom dashboards. And this is, again, something which is very, very useful. So we've seen a lot of clients requesting custom dashboards. Dashboards are a very good way to visualize and access information, whether it's structured or non-structured type of data. You can look at several demographics, performance statistics, talent-related, organizational-related KPIs, and track it in your system. You can filter, you can slice and dice, you can drill down to the individual records. You can compare multiple dashboards side by side. There's a lot of functionality which is very useful for dashboards. Today, most of our clients, they are using employee and position dashboards. There are some extended dashboards, in case you do not know, again, subject to the licenses that you've acquired. Some of it are related to people analytics, something we call management share. So this is things like looking at percentage of women in management roles. There are 10-year demographics as well. There is recruitment dashboards, which looks at the demographics of people you've hired in the last 90 days. There are terminations, so looking at everyone that left the organization, whether voluntarily or involuntarily, we can track this in the dashboards, transfers, span of control, organization layers, and also some succession dashboards. So there are a lot of dashboards that are available, but we are never going to be able to have a pre-configuration that meets everyone's requirements and needs, because the needs are very different. They depend on the client, the industry, your own business processes, your own needs, etc. So many cases, you may want to create charts beyond the ones that are enabled in your configuration, whether it's out of the box or something we configured for you. You may always want to add new charts, new graphs based on new requirements that come in. Today, there are two things you can do. You can do this from the front end, directly as a user of the tool. You can add your own charts, or from the back end as an administrator, you can create these graphs and give access to everyone that needs access to it. Okay. So let's take an example. So I'm going to stick to the employee classes that I gave earlier. So let's say that the business requirement is we want to look at the different composition for my employee class. I want to see the total number of contractors, expatriates, consultants, regular employees. I want to see their average salaries. I want to see the total cost of the organization based on these employee classes. So if I know that, for example, I have the contractors are costing me 2 million per year or 10 million per year, and I'm looking for some reduction in force. I have a need to reduce the costs of the organization. Maybe I want to look at the contractors. Maybe we can hire them. It will be cheaper for us. There are some decisions and some insights that you can get by transforming the data that you have into information, and use this insights to take action on by leveraging the dashboards. Also, the business requirement is saying, can you break down the employee classes by pay grade? I want to see by pay grade, what are my different employee classes? What is the headcount, average salaries, etc. And the second business requirement is that we need a report that can help us analyze gender pay gaps by country for my key positions. So do we have a gender pay gap in Canada for my key positions? Are we paying, let's say, male employees much higher than female employees? You know, these are the things that you can think of with these types of reports. It's actually very easy to do this in Nakisa HR Suite, whether from the front end as a user of the tool or from the back end. So the solution to these two business requirements, I mean, the first one has 4 points. The second one is just the gender pay gap. But the solution is, if you look at it, we would need to create 3 charts. we need to create a chart for employee class. We need to create a chart for employee class by pay grade in order to look at the breakdown of employee classes by pay grade. And the third one, we would need to create a chart that shows me for all of the different countries, what is the breakdown by gender. And in order to focus on key positions, I need to filter by key positions. So let me show you this live because it's easier to show it in the solution. So before I show it live, to create a chart, it's very straightforward. You can do this in the administrator console or the front end, as I mentioned before. From the admin console, you can just simply go to the org analytics. You can select the dashboard settings, and then you can say manage dashboard designer, and there you can start adding the different types of information that you have that you need. Of course, for this to work, you need to have the data to support it. So you cannot add employee class if it's not available in the drop down if you want to add the field employee class. So you need to make sure that you configure the application to pull this data first. Once it's there, you can always create these KPIs and graphs on it. So let me go into the application and show you how you can create these dashboards. So I have a lot of things open here, so I'm going to start by collapsing these things that are open. When it comes to dashboards, as the name implies, it's part of analytics. So you would have to go to the org analytics settings. You would select org analytics, and then here you will see the section for my dashboards. We have other analytics as well, such as in-chart analytics. We have other analytics module that such as storyboard, iCycle charts, employee timelines, etc. But what we're interested in is dashboards. So I'm going to go ahead here and I will open the dashboard designer. I'm selecting employee here because the requirement is to showcase the headcount, which is related to employees, to showcase average salaries, which is related to employees. So all of the operations are on employee type data. So I will go ahead and create a new one. So for the employee class, which is the first one, I can go ahead and simply create my my chart. You can use a pie chart or a bar chart, entirely up to you. It's only one field, which is employee class. So I'm just going to call it the employee class chart. Save. The field is already selected because it happened to be the top one, employee class. The operations I want to look at headcount. I want to look at average salaries. I want to look at salaries, total salaries, etc. So you can add multiple operations. And if you want to tag this as part of a focus area, like let's say organizational alignment, you can do that. So the tagging, I will show you in the front end how this looks, but you can go ahead and create it. So instead of creating one by one, because I think we don't have so much time, I'm going to create all three of them very quickly, and then we go into the front end and showcase how this looks like in the front end. So this is the first graph that we've created. Let's do another one. In this case, it will be a square chart, and the requirement is to show the pay grade by employee class. So I'm going to again do that. So I will select I will create a graph, which I will call pay grade by employee class. Again, you define the captions in the different languages if you have it enabled. Here I have field X, which is my X axis. This will be my pay grade. So I will select pay grade here. My Y axis will be my employee class field, which is the top one here. And the operations, again, I'm interested in the headcount. So the total number of employees who are contractors in that pay grade, who are apprentice in that pay grade, etc. I'm looking at average salaries. I'm looking at total salaries as well to see the total cost for the organization, for these employee classes, for these pay grades. I will tag this again as part of my org alignment, and I will create. And then the third, so I think if someone can just mute themselves, that'd be great. And then the last one, which is related to the gender pay gaps. Again, we want to look at the country and gender information for my key positions. So the best would probably be a square chart as well. And I will add it by doing the same concept. I will look at country, gender distribution. So this is my graph. It's called country by gender, and I will select the field that corresponds to this type of graph, this type of information. Here I'm going to look at gender. Of course, for this to work, you need to have some D&I information. In this case, we only need gender, but if you want a graph by age, gender, ethnicity, nationality, you need to have this enabled in the solution. And in this case, I just want to look at average salaries for my different countries by gender. And I will tag this maybe as part of my D&I initiative, and I will create. So now I've created 3 graphs in the admin console. And these graphs will be available to all of the authorized users in Nakisa HR Suite. So now let's go to the front end very quickly, and we will showcase how this looks like. I'm going to hit F11. I'm just going to, sorry, F5 to refresh very quickly so that we have the dashboards refreshed and shown. And you can access the dashboards from the OrgChart because it's context-based. So if I have an OrgChart based on the sales organization, then it will open the dashboard for sales. If I have it for HR, it's going to open the dashboard for HR. But for now, I'm just going to open the global dashboard for the entire company, which shows me all this data here. And I will select, if you look at the drop-down menu, you will see all of them here added, the new ones which are added, such as employee class, such as pay grade by employee class. I'm just going to enable it so you can see how these look like. Okay, let's look at employee class first. I'm going to zoom in. You will see that we have most of the employees are active. That's 93%. There are very few ones which are apprentice, some contractors, etc. Okay. I can switch to operations to look at the average salary total cost. This is the total cost. Let me switch to average salaries. So you can see here that the average salary for my active employees probably are the highest. Contractors, which are shown here as well in, consultant showing in orange. You can see the color coding here, how these look like. And of course, you can always get the information in a table format so you can understand how this looks like. Okay, but this is a simple one. Let's look at something more complicated. Let's take a look at the pay grade employee class, which I just created. And this is, again, a very powerful dashboard, which shows me for my different employee classes on the y-axis here. So active, apprentice, consultant, contractor, expatriate, third party, and my different pay grades. And you can see the total headcount right now. So we have, for example, 14 consultants in salary grade 06. Of course, I can drill down to find who these people are. You can just simply click inside the graph and then drill down to exactly these 14 consultants in pay grade 6. You will get this information right away. But what I wanted to show you is if I reset the filters, that on the right-hand side, if I switch the operations to average salaries, you will see right away if the numbers are very high, the shading will be a little bit more deeper. So I can see, for example, for my consultants in salary grade 18, the total salary is relatively high, 1.92 million. So I know that this is something maybe I want to look at and try to maybe hire some of them internally to help reduce the costs for me as an organization. Okay, now just one last thing is the last requirement, which is to create a report for the gender pay gap by country. And this is what you see here on the screen. I know it looks very, very tiny because I have a lot of I have a lot of countries in my coming from SuccessFactors instance. You can see the gender, female, male, and also other. You can see the different countries here. Not the best way to see the information. So I would probably switch to a table view. And I will filter by key positions because the requirement is to filter this entire data set based on my key positions and only key positions. So here on the left-hand side, I will look for key position equal yes, and you will see the information dynamically changes on the fly based on the key positions. Okay. I can take this report, export it to Excel, and that's it. I met the requirement from the business. I now have a report generated with a few clicks based on my gender pay gaps by country, and I can, provide this to the leadership team or the business that required that report in the first place. It's also very useful because you can see if there's no female employees in key positions in a country like Czech Republic, you'll be able to see here a blank. So again, it can give you a lot of information just by looking at this type of these types of graphs. Okay, If I want to focus on a specific division or department, I can also drill down to the specific division or department. So that's what I had planned for today. I think we've seen 3 different use cases to talk about custom charts, custom dashboards, and custom OrgChart display options. Just before we conclude the session, I wanted to get your feedback. I hope you found the content insightful. If you have any final questions or comments or suggestions, feel free to share them now. Again, you can type them on the chat. Otherwise, feel free to connect with myself or your dedicated account manager after the session if you would like to discuss some of these topics in more detail. Okay. Also, please note that we will have the recording of this session as well as the presentation. I will send it to you after at the end, probably by this week or early next week. And you will also find all of the recordings to the office hours, user groups on our customer portal. So look at the customer portal for these recordings, and you can always refer to them at any time if you want to, if you feel courageous enough to apply some of these configurations on your own. So I'm just going to check the chat to see if there are any questions. Okay, no questions so far. So we have 2 minutes left, I think, which is perfect timing. Yeah, so I'd like to thank you all. So all our partners or our clients and customers, internal Nakisa colleagues who joined us virtually today. And I hope to see you all in our next office hours. And I look forward to serving you with more valuable content that you can use in your day-to-day work, and yeah, that can really help you with your job, whether you are an HR, a manager, or just simply an employee at the company. Okay, so thank you, everyone, and I look forward to the next session.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Sherif.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.